Welcome to Stifel's Sightlines podcast, focusing each week on a topic or two important to investors.
Hey, greetings and welcome to the Sightlines podcast. This is Michael O'Keefe, Stifel's Chief Investment Officer. Hey, I think this is episode is going to be kind of interesting. You know, we've seen a lot of stir about AI replacing human jobs, and there are a number of folks out there that are talking about massive unemployment and almost like a ghost economy, which, you know, again, I think is not likely. And I want to get into one of the factors that I think will relate to that. And it really comes down to the idea of what technology does, what the effect is on services and ultimately the demand for services as costs fall. So if we go back in time, for example, and we look to start as one example at the launch of Excel. And again, I'm going to probably go back in time from here. Excel, I think it was 1990s. And, this was a very powerful tool that was all of a sudden dropped on people. It's so routine today, but people thought and it was so innovative. And so the idea is you could use Excel to do all this kind of budgeting and forecasting and reporting and analysis. And among other things, there was sort of this stir that essentially accountants would be out of business, that there wouldn't be the need for accountants like there was at the time. And so the doomsdayers were saying, hey, this is going to basically take out this function, as one example. But in practice, what happened was that the use of spreadsheets expanded the need for budgeting, forecasting, reporting, analysis, and ultimately created a lot more work. And when you look at sort of the number of accountants in the workforce, essentially it was stable, and it's grown certainly since then. And so, that's another example. Another one that, there are other forces at work, but ATMs, when they first hit, the spirit of it was the teller was going to go away. That didn't really happen. Now there are other forces at work they're causing the teller population to fall now. But that's another example. It even goes back to some concepts. The paradox actually started, I think, with the idea that, there were cold power steam engines, but then they started developing more efficient steam engines. And the idea was, in this case, that the demand for coal was going to plummet because of these engines using less of it. But the practical matter was, hey, they got more efficient, they were in greater demand, and actually the demand for coal increased as a result. So it's a similar concept, and that was one of the examples, at least, that sort of caused this individual to create the idea of the paradox and this concept, right? And so anyway, when we turn back to the world of artificial intelligence, of course, it is all about making things more efficient. And, when it comes to sort of what's happening, we know that there's so much that AI can do. It can draft things, summarize things, write code, analyze information, design things, and even these days interact with humans, respond to customers. And so there's a lot of fear that's building up about when we look at the functions that is sort of aligned with and the roles, really. People are worried, the machines are going to take over the people. But the practical matter is that we don't think that's going to happen. The fact is that all this capability gets less expensive. That's going to increase demand, and there will be therefore demand for jobs, for employees and roles and jobs out there. Now, of course, there will be tasks that are essentially eliminated that will put pressure on certain jobs or parts of certain jobs. And so there's no question that individuals and companies need to adapt to what's going on. But I think the overall spirit of this is to say, hey, at the end of the day, when you add it all up, there will be some people that are displaced, and that's tough, and we'll have to help people sort of retrain and all that. But when you look in aggregate, Jevons paradox basically tells us things will get more efficient in greater demand, and we should expect jobs to be supported as a result of that. So anyway, that's what we wanted to get into. It's a brief, but I hope for you, it certainly was for me, an interesting episode and an interesting concept as we sort of dig around and try to keep up and understand and evaluate how AI is changing our world, our economy, et cetera. An interesting concept. So thanks so much for listening to this episode, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next one.
Thanks again for listening to Stifel's Sightlines. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to automatically receive each week's podcast in your feed.